South Africa's political establishment has been shaken to its core. In the space of days, two explosive developments have left the African National Congress, ANC, reeling, President Cyril Ramaphosa politically maimed, and the nation staring into an uncertain future. What began with a devastating High Court judgment against the president has now been compounded by the dramatic arrest of one of his closest allies, ANC chairperson Gude Mantesh, overseas on sweeping international corruption charges. Together, these events have triggered the gravest crisis of confidence in the governing party since the advent of democracy in 1994. The first blow landed in a Pretoria courtroom. In a judgment described by legal scholars as the most damning ever delivered against a sitting president, the court found that Ramaphosa had breached core constitutional provisions, undermined the rule of law, and eroded public trust. The ruling dwelt on the president's handling of the Fala Fala farm scandal, his abuse of state resources, and obstruction of justice. In sharp language, the court accused him of deliberately misleading the public and using deceptive tactics to shield himself from accountability. No one is above the Constitution, the judgment declared, a phrase that ricocheted across the country. The presidency was blindsided. Insiders admitted they had not anticipated such a severe rebuke. Within hours, demands for Ramaphosa's resignation spread from within the ANC itself, as provincial leaders, NEC members, and representatives of the youth and women's leagues flooded social media and private chats. An emergency meeting of the National Executive Committee quickly descended into shouting matches, factional walkouts, and growing polarization. "There is panic, pure panic," one source said. For the first time in decades, the party's center appeared to have collapsed. 3 senior ANC figures resigned in protest at the leadership's faltering response. The Youth League demanded a special national conference to choose new leadership, while the Women's League fractured between those still backing Ramaphosa and those convinced the party's moral authority was irreparably stained. Secretary-General Fikile Mbalula, visibly shaken, conceded, "We are facing a crisis, but we will consult widely and do what is in the best interests of the people." His words fell flat against a backdrop of swelling public outrage. The judgment itself was explosive. It found Ramaphosa guilty of breaching the executive ethics code by failing to disclose large amounts of foreign currency discovered at his Fala Fala farm. It highlighted interference in law enforcement investigations, alleged directives to shut down inquiries, and abuse of presidential authority to escape accountability. While stopping short of a criminal conviction, the court referred the matter to Parliament and the National Prosecuting Authority, raising the possibility of impeachment and criminal charges. Opposition parties pounced. The Democratic Alliance, Economic Freedom Fighters, and Action SA staged synchronized press briefings, demanding Ramaphosa step down. The High Court has spoken. Cyril Ramaphosa is not fit to lead this country, declared DA leader John Steenhuisen. Julius Malema was harsher. The ANC is crumbling under the weight of its corruption. Ramaphosa is not the answer. He is the problem. Public sentiment shifted overnight. Once hailed as the clean-up president, Ramaphosa was now increasingly regarded as indistinguishable from the rot he had vowed to purge. Hashtags like #RamaphosaResign trended as protesters took to the streets in Johannesburg, Pretoria, and Cape Town. Calls for justice, fresh elections, and new leadership rang out. If the judgment rocked the foundations of the presidency, the arrest of Gude Mantesh blew the doors off entirely. While Ramaphosa was still reeling, news broke that Mantesh, ANC chairperson and one of his closest advisors, had been detained in Europe during what was supposed to be a discreet diplomatic trip. Acting on a sealed international warrant, police arrested him at a luxury hotel minutes before he was to attend an energy conference. The charges were staggering. Foreign investigators accused Mantesh of orchestrating an elaborate network of offshore accounts, shell companies, and rigged contracts to siphon tens of millions of dollars in public money. According to sources, whistleblower testimony, forensic audits, and leaks from offshore tax havens created a paper trail too damning to ignore. This arrest has been a long time coming, a European anti-corruption official said. The evidence doesn't just implicate Mantesh. It points to a larger network of senior figures in southern Africa exploiting public resources for personal gain. The news detonated like a bomb inside Lutherley House, ANC headquarters in Johannesburg. Panic gripped senior leaders. Phones went unanswered, Public appearances were cancelled, and some officials reportedly fled abroad. Staffers were seen shredding files and deleting sensitive data. The fear is not about what Mantesh will say, an insider whispered. It's about what investigators already know. Ramaphosa's silence grew louder by the hour. Analysts warned that his window to control the narrative was rapidly closing. That such vast corruption could flourish on his watch shredded his credibility as a reformer. The opposition pressed harder. This is not just about Gude Mantesh, Steenhuisen declared. It is about a culture of impunity in the ANC. South Africans deserve to know who else is implicated, what was hidden, and what the president intends to do. Malema was more scathing. The ANC runs this country like a criminal enterprise. If Ramaphosa does not act, he will be remembered as the man who watched democracy rot under his nose. The public response was electric. Demonstrations swelled outside parliament and government buildings. Student unions, NGOs, and civil society groups called for a mass audit of ANC leaders, the seizure of illicit assets, and international travel bans on implicated officials. On social media, hashtags like #Mantesh arrested and #corruption now exploded. This arrest proves the world sees the rot, one user wrote. Now it's time for us to clean house. Legal experts warned that Mantesh's arrest was likely just the beginning. Multiple sealed warrants are believed to exist for other ANC figures, with South African prosecutors preparing to cooperate with foreign counterparts. This is not a one-off scandal, said one analyst. It is part of a global enforcement push against transnational corruption, and South Africa is now a focus. For Ramaphosa, the twin crises have created a perfect storm. With his reputation tarnished by the court ruling and his closest ally facing international charges, he stands at the weakest point of his presidency. Already, murmurs within the ANC suggest that a leadership crisis is looming. Whether he can survive, or whether he will become the first president of the democratic era to be undone by corruption on his watch, remains the question. One thing is certain, the age of political impunity in South Africa is ending. And Cyril Ramaphosa may be the first to pay the price.